Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Sorry, I've been running around and there's five other rooms that I'm trying to host.
Yeah, that's okay.
I just passed you hosting abilities, so you should be able to create breakout rooms, the chat, all of those functions on the bottom.
Okay, great.
So this is technically the room that I'm in, but I will be moving around as fires occur, which happened for the first time symposiuming for our group. So
Yeah, how's it been going so far?
it's been good. Our presentations have been really great. We made it a point to try to curate people that had engaging presentations that are centered around dialogue and interactions, so I think it's been really good because we've had some really awesome conversations happening so far.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So you are the host. Do you feel comfortable screen sharing all of those things?
Yep. I mean, let me just try it to make sure that it works. Yep, that works. Can you see that okay?
Yes. Yes, I can. You
Mhm.
may want to make it full screen though, because I can see your
The tabs.
mhm.
Um,
And then is that a co-presenter with you?
I don't have a co-presenter.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it says co-host because I have a presentation later today, but
I
this one I'm just sitting
know.
through.
So I think it's worth mentioning that we had to assign co-hosts to the room for the duration of the symposium. So you may have people pop in as a co-host that are actually presenting at a later panel, but
Yeah, that's okay.
they're usually just, here for for your presentation. So
Yeah, no problem.
cool. All right. So I'm actually going to pop out really quickly to check on one more room to make sure that they should be in place, but I'm going to check. So I'll be back and then you can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll get started in just a minute here. We have two Neils in the house. That's exciting.
Wild, I've never
Neil,
seen that before.
I know. Neil, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm speaking. I'm doing well. How's your semester?
Pretty good. Excited to wrap this up.
Is this your last semester?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Cool. Congratulations. That's awesome. Very good. Okay. So I think we'll get started and people can just kind of filter in as they are. Welcome, everyone. You are welcome to cameras off or cameras on, up to you. This is going to be pretty interactive. So just know that, but we will get started in just a second here. Okay, I think we will do it like this. Okay. Okay, can everyone see this black screen? All right, great. And I'm gonna just stick my notes over here and we're gonna get rolling. Okay, so welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm pumped to be here. My name is Erica Quinn. I'm the executive director of 3 Dots Downtown. I'm also an instructor in the Stookman School. And I'm really excited to be at this conference and symposium. So I want to acknowledge everybody that helped put it together because it's such a fabulous opportunity to have people from divergent specialties, areas of inquiry come together and really connect in some meaningful ways surrounding these broader ideas of sustainability. So I'm a photographer, I'm a poet, I also work in moving image. This is just kind of a brief glance at my website. You're welcome to visit it if it's interesting to you. I primarily have focused in my career on landscapes that for me represent loss, memory, and this idea of forgetting. My photographs are shot with expired film. These are blurred intentionally or taken out of focus. And my more recent work really pushes this. So for me, these unpredictable results mirror this kind of gap of cognition, this loss of memory. And an expanded photographic practice has always interested me because it really excavates this idea of being human and a means of understanding other human beings. And I really think it can be a tool for empathy. So from the time that I first started exploring the world with my camera, I became extremely curious about the relationship between humans and the environment that they inhabit. So this tie always between people and place. So the workshop that we're going to do this afternoon is kind of born of a workshop that I had been doing between 2016 and 2020 in Germany. So we'll get to that. So all Penn State landscape architecture students study abroad for 1 semester in Bonn, Germany, and they do a sustainable design studio. For them, it's one of the first chances that they've had collectively to work in an urban context and live in an urban context. And so, yeah, from 2016 to 2020, I was leading a semesterly workshop that was integrated into the first week of the student studio. And it was fascinating to me, and I loved the opportunity because I really believe that in order to foster a more nuanced appreciation and understanding of place, it's essential to explore it poetically and to think about the various narratives that are embedded in space. So these students are very good at what they do. They're about to graduate. And for the first week, we take that all apart. So we totally dismantle them, get them out of their comfort zone. There's paper, there's string, we're doing weird stuff. Later on, they turn it into some kind of flashy graphics. But part of this is getting just out of your zone of familiarity. So there's a layered series of workshop activities, and these all culminate in a collaborative public installation. So many moments throughout this workshop brings them into direct community engagement, where they're actually meeting with people who live in the city of Bonn, Germany. So again, these are images from the last time I offered this workshop, which was directly before the COVID pandemic. And you can see the various ideation stages of this workshop process. It's super collaborative, so students are putting photographs together, putting them around, thinking about themes. In this iteration, we also had them go into the sites and bring back physical objects. So there was this kind of tangible, almost sculptural element to that work. Then they worked together to plan the installation, which is very collaborative and also open to the public. And we were really excited in this last offering because we're just kind of doing weird things in the community and looking unusual, garnered some media attention. So we had the local news and the local newspaper come and do stories on our students. And so this is them. This is the newspaper reporter, there's television crew. And then there's a lot of members of the communities in interacting with our students. And so it became this really interesting way of not just making design for people, which is the role of the landscape architect, but really thinking like, what is our role as designers? How do we best serve the people? And so this kind of extra layer of involvement, getting at some empathic understanding of people and their place. So I always, as part of this workshop, include this quote from Susan Sontag, because I think it's really critical. And I love here the distinction between not just recording the world that you see, but really giving an evaluation of the world that you see. And so that part in bold is something that I love. Just photographs are evidences, not only of what's there, but of what an individual sees, not just a record, but an evaluation of the world. And I think that kind of empowerment of the person, so not just the technical object, but what is your view? What is your lens that you physically bring to the world? So I'm interested in the way in which photographs can explore and help us gain a deeper understanding of the meaning of spaces. And so also in the spirit of the symposium, I think interdisciplinary thinking leads always to this nuance and kind of intersectional understanding of a subject, of a place, of ourselves, of the human condition. And I'm interested in the development of these observational skills where we slow down, we notice. For me, this also has a relationship to mindfulness. So what do we need for this workshop? Because we're going to talk, but we're also going to do. So what we're going to need first is pen and paper. And then later on, we're gonna need just a basic digital camera, and that can even be your phone. So what we're gonna do next, so get out your pen and your paper. And we're gonna do the short message. Let's see here. Okay, so I want you to call to mind a photograph from your life of importance to you, and don't look at it. So if you have access to it, we want you to just, don't bring it up, don't show yourself it. This is really just kind of like a mental reflection exercise. And for 5 minutes, I want you just to jot down as many sensory descriptive details as possible from memory. And then we're going to weave these details into a few lines describing the moments before, during, or after the photograph was taken. So we can go ahead and do that. And I'll pull this back up again so you have reference for that. And we're just going to take 5 minutes to do that. And does anyone need another minute? Does this mean that everyone is ready? Is anyone alive in this room?
I am alive.
Oh, great. A room full of corpses would just be suboptimal. Okay, great. Okay, so no one needs more time. We're ready to keep going. Okay. So now we're going to start talking to each other. So for this, you may wish to show your face, you may wish to remain a voice, but I'm curious, just as a starting point, who wants to share their example?
I guess I'll share my example. Mine started just as descriptions and sort of evolved into something more writing or poetry. But anyway, there's this one photo that I always think back to when I studied abroad in Sydney. I took this picture. I'll read it first. Sydney. The air is thick and gray. The view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and Opera House, normally clear, is now shrouded in a blanket of smoke. People are wearing masks before they were fashionable. The early morning is quiet, no birds or cars. I take a tour of the Sydney Opera House. My tour guide invites me to play the baby grand piano in the conductor's suite. A piano worth more than everything I've ever owned. And I peck at the keys, feeling like royalty, and look out the window at the grayscale harbor. So just for context, that was in December of 2019, January 2020, at the time of the wildfires in Australia. And even though I was there for 16 days, that was the one day that the smoke from the fires hit the city. And that was just my observations on how the city felt different and how we had visible evidence that something was going on. And that sort of was the beginning of my interest in photography, actually, because I took this sort of documentary-ish photo of the bridge covered in the smoke, and it felt like I was actually contributing something, remembering, not just snapping a photo. But that was a photo that I always think back to as important.
Yeah, I mean, I love so many of the aspects that you shared, right? So there's all of these layers to this photograph that Neil is not even looking at, simply remembering. I think there's information about the documentary aspect and the relationship between the environmental, the kind of global situation aspect of this. So it's not just like a tourist memory, but you're also making some kind of a record of, a place at a particular time. There's also these great things that I'm sure are not depicted in the photograph that lead you down these memory holes of playing the piano and the piano's relationship to your financial life and your place in society, and all of these different kind of sensory moments that really help us feel like we are there. We're not looking at the photograph, and neither are you. There's just so much emotional information that's really in a photograph. So it's just pixels or film or just light information captured. But I think more significant, there's this emotional data point. Other Neil, are you interested in sharing what you have to say?
Sure. I just have jotted down a few notes. I didn't have a particular photograph because but the thing that came to mind first was sort of a series of photos that Robert Frank took in Mabu when he was living there. And it's photographs of his photographs that he's cut and collaged together, and they were like pinned up on walls and lines, and they're black and white photos. And the thing that I think about when I see them is just like it's windswept hills of Mabu, and you can feel the cold salt air, the weathered wood and faded frames of the window, and the structure of the buildings where he has clipped these photos and photographing these things in this faint, you can see the clouds, and you can just feel the salt and the wind filling that whole frame of the window as it kind of moves around through that space. So that's sort of what I was just playing with.
Yeah, it's so evocative. I mean, yeah, I think part of what your retelling of this photograph is doing for me is making me feel like I was there, right? And that's one of the things a photograph can help do, not just showing what this place looks like, right? So we're not just a passive recorder, of photographic information, but really showing, like, retelling someone your experience of this place or that photographer's experience of this place. So it becomes this kind of point of connection of helping someone to understand what you're paying attention to. And so I love in either, both of these examples that, like, Neil 1, we can call it Neil S and Neil W. Neil S is talking about a photograph that he's taken. Neil W is talking about a photograph just in the zeitgeist. And so, so much visual information. It's just so much about how we understand concepts of culture. And it's especially because of Instagram and how churning and how accessible the photograph has become for an everyday person. I think it's a really interesting medium that has a lot of different layers of meaning in it. Yeah, so thank you both for those. Yeah, so that's just a way to have us start thinking about what a photograph is and what it can mean to us and to other people. So now what we're going to do, and I don't even know if we really need to have a breakout room. What I might do is just kind of remove myself from this and let you guys work together, but we're gonna do some work together. So this is kind of my mantra in all things teaching. I've taught everyone from kindergartners to retirees and most extensively college students. The only rule is that there are very few rules. So people will often ask me, but what do you mean? And what I have written is what I mean. So you can interpret it. I'm much more interested in how you take this. So we have time for about 20 minutes of this next part. And you, depending on how you approach this, you might get to just one, you might get to all three, very much up to you. No preconceptions of what this is like. But part of the goal of this is you should both have images, maybe some text, maybe some drawings by the end of the 20 minutes. Super quick. It's not going to be, the most complete, most amazing photograph. It's more of a sketch. Think about it in these ways. So we have some questions designed to help thinking about the way that you see the world and the way that you understand people in the world. So there's 3 different vignettes here, we can call them. I would suggest that you start with the one that you feel that you gravitate toward most. And it's partnered work, so you'll switch. And I'll set a timer for 20 minutes. And when we come back together, whatever you've had time to do is great. You will want to keep these things kind of where you can find them, because the next really quick thing is that we are going to be uploading these into Concept Board. And I'm going to put the link for Concept Board in the chat. So as you're coming up with things, you're also going to be arranging them on a board, and how you arrange them is really up to you. And we'll repeat that for just so we have a new guest here. So basically, the 3 of you will be working together to approach one or more of these. In all cases, you want to make sure that everybody is both kind of making work about someone else and having work made about them. And then we're going to be in real time adding things to a concept board. So I'm going to set a 20-minute timer. But are there any questions first? Okay, so maybe because now there are 3 of you, I will put you in a breakout room. I'll put these prompts in there too. You can also photograph this for your reference. So let's see here. Okay, so farewell.
But we're having an issue in the breakout room where everything you just wrote is not in our chat.
Oh no, is it gone?
The
Okay.
little blue bubbles up top, but it's
Okay. Let's see here. What's the best way to solve this problem? Neil, I feel like you're always you're like we'll call you the representative. Here, let me come into the breakout room and see what we can do here.
You just share your screen again and we can take a picture of the prompts.
Sure.
That would probably be best.
Great, I can do that for sure. Okay, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have the concept board link that I put in last?
No.
Okay, why don't I put that in the chat to you?
Mhm.
And then if you don't mind carrying that over, that would be
Sure.
awesome. Okay, let's see here. You got that?
I got the
Oh,
picture.
good.
I
You
don't
got
have the link
image?
though.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay. I will reassign myself to the breakout room because I'm a co-host.
Oh yeah, because you're a co-host.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Hi.
Hi. How did it go?
It's good. The others are in a breakout room. Are you interested in joining? Or are you just kind of flitting around?
I'm moving around quite quickly.
Okay. That's
So,
okay.
I just wanted to check in and make sure that things were going okay for you.
Yeah, it's going well. Yeah, thanks for the notes about my chat. Because like I'm usually on a monitor, but I'm on just a laptop. So I'm like trying to cram all these things into this tiny screen.
I have the same thing. I have two monitors, and so if I'm sometimes not cognizant of what's where. So
No, but yeah, no, we're going well.
okay, great. All right, well, I'll pop back in a little while.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up with a discussion, which might be more interesting to watch than this part.
Okay, I'll come back for that then.
Thanks. Hey, Talitha.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How does this work?
So we have some folks in a breakout room doing an exercise. Can I throw you in there?
Can you just give me a little, what is going, oh, good Lord. I've got a funny background from a family call. I got to get that off.
No problem.
Can you just give me context? Because I had to guess that it was the care. I was like, I don't know which room it's in.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. So the context is, and I can put it in the chat, which you can look at, but they also have it in the thing. So
Mhm.
in this breakout room, the attendees are answering these questions and making just kind of open-ended work. And we have a concept board that we're putting our images into.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you don't mind, I'll give you the link for the concept board. They have this info too. So hopefully it will be easy. Thank you for coming. So great.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make it on time.
Yeah, that's okay. It's super open-ended. You'll still get a flavor of it.
Cool.
even
Is it
second half.
recorded or anything?
It is being recorded, and I'm sure they'll probably distribute it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, do you want me to send you over? Oh,
Yeah.
Neil's back.
I'm
Hi,
back
Neil.
again because I have
Welcome.
to turn off or turn on share screen for
Oh
purposes.
my goodness. This
All right, and I'm going
problem-
back to the breakout room.
Okay, cool.
Erica, do I need to do this on my computer versus my phone?
That's a good question. Concept board might be tricky to do on your phone.
Mhm.
But some of the other people in the group can help you. It might be more more useful at this point. Just
Just to
do-
listen in.
Yeah, just to do whatever. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, you can send me.
Okay, cool. Goodbye.
Bye.
I'm back.
Hi, welcome back. We're about to call everybody back in a moment here.
Okay, I can just hang out.
Mhm. Hi, welcome back. Oh, so many smiling faces. This is exciting. How did it go in there, everybody?
Good.
Great. Cool.
It was
Welcome. I
pretty
think
fun.
some of you might be muted. I'm not sure if I can hear everybody.
Oh yeah, when
Oh.
we re-enter the room, we get muted.
Mhm.
Hello.
Welcome back, everyone. So, we're online. People come and go. I'm not sure if you had time or what aspects you had time for. Before we jump into the concept board part, I'm just would like to hear some takeaways. So, what surprised you? What did you notice? Maybe let's start there. Neil, I don't.
I'm
there you go.
unmuted. There. So Neil 1 and Neil 2 had similar window pictures. I noticed that. Looking at our back window, we both had sort of the lines in our window sort of framing unique elements that sort of chop off different things, trees and fences and plants. And I'm not sure if we intended to get the photos the same way, but it certainly had a striking resemblance.
Interesting.
I think they all had an element of a grid, some sort of grid or some sort of frame. So the square was prominent in each of our images in our group. So even Talitha, I believe, or even her frame of her window, it's all about the windows. I may not have had a window, but the bricks and the lineup of everything was still all squared off in most of our images.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
From
I
the
just
two
love-
images I saw, 3 images I saw.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Talitha?
Oh, I'm just agreeing. I didn't see one of the Neil's pictures, but from the ones I saw, the framing is a consistent. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so interesting the way we arrange these views for ourselves, right? The window becomes its own framing device, and it helps kind of direct so much of our gaze, I guess, throughout the day. I think I've spent more time thinking about that this year, being inside, looking out, than I've ever had before in my life. And it's so interesting. I'm curious geographically, where are we all beaming in from right now? If you haven't talked about that already.
I'm in Rhode Island, in western Rhode Island, the rural part of the state.
Mhm.
It's in New England.
I'm at home in Mountaintop, Pennsylvania.
I'm in southwestern Indiana, Vincennes, Indiana, southwestern corner.
Mhm.
I'm in Berlin, Germany.
Yeah, so these are very different places.
Very different.
And, interesting, urban, rural, suburban, like all of these different ways to slice what is the space outside our window. And yet there are these things that kind of bind the same viewing experiences that we're having. Was anything lost in translation, or was any meaning augmented by doing that kind of person-to-person work?
One thing I noted when I saw Arthur described the view at his theoretical window or his office. He gave this huge description about the warm tones on the tile of the floor with just a bit of blue, and the way that the sunlight sort of crept towards the stairway in the corner. And then at the end he said, oh yeah, and there's some hand sanitizer in the middle of the wall. That got by me, but when I saw his photo of the hand sanitizer was the star of the show, and I underestimated that.
Interesting. Yeah, I kind of love the poetic content, the detail of, not just seeing something that's there, but really appreciating it. So maybe that hand sanitizer has been there this whole time. And maybe today, for the first time in a more mindful way, you're paying attention to its sculptural qualities, right? We're kind of doing a deeper dig into the environment that we are a citizen of, that it's your habitat. But I think there's so much that we take for granted until we have to describe it to someone else. It's almost, I'm not sure if anyone else has any teaching experience in this room, but I feel like you have this concept of like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. But if you try to tell someone how to do it, or if you try to give someone directions, if you try to translate that experience, it becomes very different. And so I think that's something to keep in mind too, that kind of relationship between translation, I think is so interesting in language and in image. Just as a side note, as we go, we have this concept board, and I would say at this point, use it if it's useful for you, and so we can put the images in there. It's kind of more of a sketchbook space or a space to share, but it sounds like you guys were really successful at doing that sharing as well. I'd also, because geographically we're so far flung, I'm curious to hear your partnered people's different experiences of space and place. How did it differ from your own?
So I just have a comment about, because I was really observing with the last question. Arthur described actually the picture that's behind him right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Neil, I don't know, one or two, Neil S.
Neil one.
One of them.
Neil one shared a drawing. We saw his drawing before we saw the picture. So we heard the word picture, then the drawing, then the photograph. And like, because I had done the sort of picture in my imagination, it was like, without drawing it, it was really like fun to see Neil's rendition and how it was very like it did feel like an illustration from a book that would describe something historic, because Arthur had a lot of detail in what he was sharing, and I learned something about the place that I never knew before. So that was really cool.
Mm-hmm. I think, Arthur, you're muted.
Yeah, yes. And I think that's one of my faults, because I tend to describe things really well to my students, because I am a teacher. And so when we start talking in an art appreciation, or I'm in photography, I always try to ask the students to describe what they actually see in front of them. And so I kind of do that on my own, because it's just part of my teaching. And so I kind of tend to over talk and over describe things too. So
Yeah, and part of what I think is so interesting about this exercise is you have your own complete idea of your space, of your environment, of where you are, and your kind of global positioning. What's your point on the map? But I love the word illustration. This is kind of drawing aspect of putting out information about that thing that is so uniquely yours, and allowing someone else to enter that space and layer their own narrative on top of that. So I love that significance. I feel so warmed by this geographic cross section of at least part of the world. Yeah, and I'm just also, this question of empathy. So how to your mind does empathy enter into a creative practice?
I think that I'm teaching a course for the first time, so I've taught workshops, but I'm like experiencing the kind of regular feedback, and I think this like learning to see and like learning to think about how somebody else sees differently than you do is one of the really valuable parts of the classroom setting. And just as like a side note from what you were saying before, like with what people notice about an image or about place. Yesterday I taught my course to one student, and I was teaching in German for the first time. So she was like patient with my German. And but what was incredible at the end, I was like, have you taken a class before? Because all of the points that I wanted to come out with my questions, she was noticing, like she was so observant. And so I don't know, it was just really interesting. Like, yeah, that was a moment of empathy for sure, because I'd never experienced someone like being on my wavelength. she'd never taken a photography class before. So I was just like, okay,
Yeah, that's
you're
great.
doing great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when you dial down to this idea of photography as observation, right? I'm not really interested in the elite parts of equipment or concepts or ideas, or, you know, it's really more about this really personal examination, this kind of observation, this kind of slow process of paying attention and not taking for granted the space, right? And being really authentic to the way you understand the world. You know, I think that is far more valuable than, you know, I don't know. I feel like elitism in general is not something I'm interested in. Great. Well, we'll be wrapping up in just a second. Is there anything else that anyone would like to share, either visually or verbally?
I would like to just flip my screen around if I can.
Yeah, I
And
think you can.
yeah, so you can see, I actually can't see what you're seeing right now because I'm hiding my view. But like, just when you were talking about what we see around us, like I'm in a top floor flat with diagonal windows. I didn't really have time to describe that, but it's just interesting in the summertime because the light reflects off the television. And so I have like a doubly warm room with like multiple windows. It's super weird. So, and I actually don't use the TV that much. So it's like, it's just funny because it's a frame within a frame, like
Yeah, it's another window.
within a frame. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the willingness to connect and the openness. You know, my last slide is really just stay in touch. So if this was interesting to you, let's keep the conversation going. So there's my Instagram, my website, and my email at work. And I feel very delighted that you all have come here today from so far flung. What an exciting, I feel like we're all in a certain kind of latitude. So that's cool. I didn't say I'm in State College, Pennsylvania. And I loved getting to chat with you all today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
good
It was
care.
great.
Thank you. This was lovely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet y'all too.
great
Nice
to
to
meet
meet
you
you.
too. Take care, guys. Enjoy the
Bye.
symposium.
Bye-bye.
And so, you know,